Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower, back in the studio today with Dr. A. Allan Armitage. How are you today, Alan?
I'm well, Brian. How are you doing? It's good to talk with you again, as always.
I'm doing very well. We're having this weird summer that just does not seem to end in Northeast Ohio. And I know it's like that in other areas of the countries as well. Normally, this is a time of year where we're getting into sweatshirts and warming up by a fire. And it's going to be 75 here today in Cleveland. So,
Yeah, well, it's amazing what's happening out there, and unfortunately, it's happening too quickly. This whole climate change, and it's I just it's real. If anybody tells me it's not, I don't know what I'm going to say, but it's certainly real in our business. We know that,
yeah.
like you say, we're 70s today for sure. Heck, we may be to 80 today, and it's October. And of course, and then we had this crazy dip with cool temperatures a month or so ago, and Lord knows when. And of course, winter, who knows? I know
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to get the winter you're used to have when you were a kid, and certainly winter is really important to our products, particularly the perennials and shrubs and trees. If
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
decent winters, these plants just don't look as good the next year.
No,
Yes,
you're
so
absolutely
that's a
right.
problem.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we talk about is as we get into next year is solutions for gardeners. I know you're very big on the whole solution gardening concept. When you and I talk, when you write about it, the two areas that usually jump out to me are pollinators and deer resistant plants. But there are always some overlooked areas when it comes to solution gardening. I wanted to see if I could pick your brain on what some of those might be, particularly here as we're talking, as again, we're in the fall, doesn't necessarily feel like it, but, there's a solution for gardening for every time of year.
Well, going back to our and, when this whole thing started, I've always believed that that's why people go to a garden center is because they want a solution, but
Yeah,
it made it very painfully obvious when I'm talking to my neighbors and I'm telling them about all the cool plants. They say, "Well, I don't really care. I just want something that works for this swampy area I have in my garden, or for this really hot, dry area I have in the garden, or and of course, as my daughter says, "Dad, I love you, but don't bore me with this stuff. I need something that I can put in the shade that's native."
yeah,
Okay, so that's a whole solution thing, and that's why people are going to garden centers. And I say that where garden centers are also, they have that beautiful stuff that people can't help themselves. That's great, and
mhm,
that's always going to be great. And thank goodness for spring. But what about fall? Um, so one of the solutions that people always ask is season. Spring is easy. Summer's pretty easy. Fall is easy kind of thing if you understand it, but it's not easy because in the spring, nobody's growing anything that's going to look good in the fall.
right,
I talk asters, for example, or I talk old lilies, which is another perennial. We know the annuals, hopefully they'll go right through to the fall, but what about some of these plants that look so good in the fall? You can't find them in spring.
mhm,
So the solution for fall gardening, for instance, unfortunately, because it's difficult for my daughter, uh, or the garden center to keep my daughter into fall stuff because she doesn't know what she wants anyway. It's been then we're kind of doing all this online, which is just fine because many of our best companies have online areas as well. But solutions for season. What are you going to do for fall? Well, let's do some asters. Okay, let's do some of that stuff in the spring. Put a nice, you know, picture up there, and you don't have to fill your garden center with fall things, but give everybody a chance for solutions because people who go into garden centers are different than those who just go into, a box store, and box stores are terrific. They
yeah,
can sell a lot of our plants, but people going to garden centers generally are going there because they want a little bit of extra help, and hopefully something like that. So I mentioned solutions. It comes in all sorts of different ways. To say it could be, what's a good plant for dry shade? Well, who's ever heard of of epimedium? But it's a fabulous plant for dry shade, but we have to be able to sell it. So the whole solution thing, the easy stuff, natives, deer, pollinators, those are the easy things. And let's keep doing that. Shade, sun, those are all great solutions that our garden centers, I think, for what it's worth, need to have sections for solutions, not just beauty.
yeah, it's all about helping the consumer solve a problem, so I like it, I like it.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to talk about it, another thing to implement it, and I understand how difficult that is at times. The whole deer thing, we've talked about deer forever, and we're talking about a little book I'm about to get out there. It's just It's that whole deer thing is just so difficult
Yeah.
for garden centers and for producers to get their arms around because that's all that consumers talk about.
Mhm.
Don't tell me how pretty it is. Tell me if the deer don't eat it. And so that's definitely a solution for sure. And we've done a pretty good job in the industry to address that. But we can't lose sight of those solutions. They're just far more important than just another pretty red petunia.
Yeah, and then now I think it's a great time of year to be talking about this
Yeah.
because folks are starting to plan for next year, what they're gonna do both at the grower level and at the retailer level. Now's the time to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so we have a lot of fabulous things going on. We'll continue to do so, but let's never lose sight of what we're really doing, and that's trying to get to the consumer, the landscape, whatever, something that works.
Great. Great point to close on. Thank you so much today, Alan.
As always, Bram, my pleasure. You take care.